Hi, welcome to this week's Monday Minutes. My name is Kelly.
And my name is Jessie. And this week we are going to talk to you about Store Last Borrower. And we have an amazing guest with us, Andrew. Hi.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
Hi,
Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Happy to.
So this week we asked Andrew to jump in and talk to us a little bit about some of the history when you're looking at an item record. So we'll pull one up for example here. If we look at the items tab of the detail record, when we're looking at it, we can view a couple things in the history. When it was last borrowed, when it was last returned, and who the last borrower was. Now there's some moving pieces here that we want to talk about, and that's why we invited Andrew. Andrew, give us a little overview.
Sure, yeah. So we've got several bits of information all kind of smashed together here in a way that could stand a little explanation. So those three things you just ran through, last borrowed, last returned by, and last borrower. Those three bits of data are coming from a few different places. Last borrowed and last borrower are both coming out of the old issues table. Well, issues and old issues. Anyway, that's the table that remembers stuff that gets checked out, which is pretty straightforward. It's saying like, this is the last time this item was checked out on the 17th today. And then last borrower is telling us the card number of the last person to have returned this item. And that's pretty straightforward. That functionality has existed within Koha forever. But, and yeah, if you would click over to that other item there, so here's another item that has been checked out a few times. And here we see we've got those same values, last borrowed, last returned by, and then last borrower. Last borrower, again, comes from the issues table. The issues table is where anonymization happens. If you're not saving patron reading history, Koha does that by, in the issues table, just pulling their borrower number out and replacing it with the borrower number for the anonymous borrower. It's kind of a like weirdly straightforward way to do that. It just says, hey, forget this checkout ever happened with this patron, just pretend anonymous checked it out. And that's what we see here. Last borrower is anonymous because the patron who actually had this last isn't saving their reading history. And that's cool. A lot of libraries want to not save reading history. It's good patron privacy. But then pretty often that gets you around to a situation of somebody checked this out and it got checked back in, and only now we're realizing that they like spilled coffee all over it and we need to find out who it was. So that's where last returned by comes in. It's a separate table of data that says, hey, even if my patron has decided to not save their reading history, I am gonna save it just in this one little instance. And in this one little way, there's no way for us to go from whoever that patron is with that card number ending in 27. There's no way for us to go to their record and see their reading history. But if we're here on this item, we can see from the item linked back to them as the last person to have had it. So if you're anonymizing reading history, it makes sense to turn on this last returned by feature. And that's where stuff starts getting a little confusing just for naming reasons. You know, Koha's not always great at how it names things. So we've got a system preference, store last borrower. If this is set to store, as it says there, we're going to keep the last patron to have returned the item independent of the whole anonymization process.
And it's good to know that regardless, we cannot go to a person's account if they have their reading history anonymized and see what they've checked out. We can only get there from a specific item. So if we did notice a disc was missing, chapter was pulled out, we can go to that item. And if they were, we'll find out the last person that returned that.
Yep. And that'll show in that items page there. It's also accessible via reports if you ever need to write a report for that. It goes into its own special table. I know there are reports on the reports library that use that.
And that table is items _ last _ borrower.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And that table is really just a list of like an item number and a borrower number. It's very straightforward.
Okay.
I Excellent. Well, thank you, Andrew, for joining us this week as our special guest for Monday Minutes, and we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you again, Andrew. Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Bye.